Breaking news. More than 20 heads of FBI field offices have been ordered to retire or be fired today, including the leaders of the Bureau's field offices in Miami and Washington, D.C. NBC News is reporting this, but beyond just DOJ leadership, Donald Trump's Justice Department started purging rank-and-file prosecutors who brought violent January 6 rioters to justice. Their termination letter quoted Trump's comments that the cases represented, quote, a grave national injustice, end quote. At least 174 of the nearly 1,600 rioters whose cases or sentences Trump terminated had been charged with assaulting police with dangerous weapons. The acting Deputy Attorney General, Emil Bovee, who served as Trump's personal criminal defense attorney, sent a memo to Justice Department leaders ordering the purge of January 6 prosecutors, revealing that the former president, Biden, gave these prosecutors permanent status following Trump's election. In his memo, Bovee called their employment subversive for federal prosecutors. The FBI Agents Association disagreed, denouncing the purge as outrageous, writing, quote, if true, these outrageous actions by acting officials are fundamentally at odds with the law enforcement objectives outlined by President Trump and his support for FBI agents. Dismissing potentially hundreds of agents would severely weaken the Bureau's ability to protect the country from national security and criminal threats, and will ultimately risk setting up the Bureau and its new leadership for failure, end quote. Now, Trump's FBI pick, Kash Patel, gave this shocking answer yesterday in his Senate confirmation hearings. He thinks the FBI ultimately reports to Trump.
Who does the director of the FBI work for, Mr. Patel?
Senator, thank you for that question. The immediate report for the director of the FBI is into the Office of the Deputy Attorney General. Then that report is taken into the Office of the Attorney General and ultimately the White House and the chain of command there.
So the FBI works for the White House?
No, the FBI is a member of the Department of Justice and has been the longstanding application.
And who does the Department of Justice work for?
They're in the executive branch, as all members do at the White House.
Attorney General Bondi gave a different answer when I asked her the same question, that they work for the Constitution and the American people.
Joining us now, David Rhodes, Senior Executive Editor of National Security at NBC News. He's also the author of the recent book, Where Tyranny Begins, the Justice Department, the FBI, and the War on Democracy. Joyce Vance also joins us. She's a former United States attorney and an MSNBC legal analyst. Welcome to both of you. David, you've been working till literally I just did that intro. You've got new information on this FBI situation.
Yeah, there's a memo that was sent out by the acting director of the FBI. This is just a career person who really doesn't have much power. But essentially, the Justice Department, Emil Bovee, the acting deputy attorney general, has asked for a list of every single FBI agent in the country who worked on a January 6th prosecution. And the acting head of the FBI sent this, across the workforce, but said that he understood this would mean thousands of FBI personnel who've worked on these
because it was the largest investigation
in American history.
So these FBI agents are not self-assigning, just in the way that you and I as journalists are not self-assigning,
yes.
right?
Yes.
We get assignments from other people. It's not really on an FBI agent to say, not taking that case.
And that's what's so different here and frankly surprising. This isn't some effort, to go after Jack Smith, not that, some would argue that's not justified, but this is thousands of agents who were simply doing their jobs and questioning all of the prosecutions related to January 6th, every single one of them. And so there will be a review of all of those thousands of FBI agents,
right,
and whether they too should face some sort of action as these people that were ousted tonight, the much more senior people. So it's a much broader approach than I expected. I'll be honest about that.
Joyce, let's talk about the distinction, whether it's FBI agents or it's prosecutors. Whether you agree with it or not, high-level people sometimes get asked to resign and change over with a new administration. Some would argue, and I'm one of them, that really shouldn't happen, that the civil service is the civil service and that should be it. But sometimes political appointees get asked to move on when there's a new president. This is not what we're talking about here, Joyce. I use the word purge because it's going to ranks and levels that are much lower than the most senior decision makers, either in the Department of Justice or the FBI.
Yeah, purge is exactly the right word for what this is. You expect to see political appointees. I was a political appointee in the Obama administration. You expect to see us leave at the end of the administration. What we're talking about now is career employees, and they can only be removed, whether they're FBI agent or prosecutor, for failures in performance and conduct that are documented over a period of time with a very rigid set of protections. None of that was followed tonight. Instead, these people were essentially denigrated. Their character was attacked because they worked on cases that they were assigned to. And you know, I really resent, Allie, the suggestion that these were fly-by-night cases based on political theories, because they weren't. These were cases that were indicted after presentations to grand juries. These were trials or guilty pleas in front of federal district judges. Some of these cases were affirmed on appeal in the District of Columbia. These were, if anything, close legal issues, the sorts of cases Justice Department prosecutors have been bringing for year upon year, and you never see a conversation about career people being fired. Even when Bill Clinton was investigated and was, in fact, questioned by Justice Department prosecutors, Bill Clinton didn't try to retaliate while he was in office and order any of them fired, because that's what a banana republic dictator does. That's what Donald Trump is doing here. It is a dangerous moment, this purge that we're watching happen.